The palace alarm screamed through crystalline corridors as Queen Vishara's claws dug into her throne's armrests. 300 meters above the royal courtyard, something impossible moved through the air. Not a vessel, not a drone, a creature. Bipedal. Humanoid. Wearing the Academy uniform of the Galactic Coalition. Ground Defense Report. Her voice cut through the chaos with surgical precision. Majesty, the human cadet, the exchange student, he's... The guard commander's mandibles clicked in distress. He's flying. Veshara rose, her 6 legs carrying her massive frame toward the observation dome with terrifying speed. Her daughter, Princess Kira, barely 5 cycles old, pressed against her side, all 4 of her young eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. Flying? The queen's secondary eyes narrowed. Humans don't have wings. Through the dome's transparent ceiling, she watched the creature. The human soar between the palace spires with movements that defied every law of Zethlan biology. Their world's gravity was 1/3 that of most coalition planets. Visitors always struggled here, their muscles too weak, their bones too dense. They stumbled and shuffled and clung to support rails. This one danced. Cadet Marcus Chen twisted in midair, his body horizontal to the ground, arms spread wide. He wore no propulsion pack, no anti-gravity harness. Just the standard gray uniform and what appeared to be pure, impossible defiance of physics. He launched himself from the eastern terrace, the commander continued, her voice tight, 20 meters up. He should have fallen. Should have broken every bone. Instead he soared, Kira whispered, her small voice filled with awe. Veshara's protective instinct flared. She pulled her daughter back from the dome. All cadets were briefed. The gravity difference is dangerous. Reckless movement can... Marcus Chen executed a flip, caught a decorative spire with one hand, and swung himself upward with such force he cleared another 15 meters vertically. Then he simply hung there, suspended, before pushing off and gliding in a wide, graceful arc toward the central plaza. Get him down, Veshar commanded. Carefully. If he's injured, Majesty, he's not injured. He's laughing. Laughing. She magnified the dome's view, and there it was. The human's face split in a wide grin, his mouth open in what her translator confirmed was joyous laughter. Below him a crowd had gathered. Other cadets. Palace staff, all staring upward. Marcus pushed off from a statue, sailed across the plaza's entire width, then caught himself on a pillar with fingertips alone, hanging 50 meters above marble pavement with apparently no concern whatsoever. Mother, how is he doing that? Kira's voice held no fear, only fascination. I don't know. Vishara's mind raced through coalition briefings. Humans, Earth, heavy world, high gravity. But this was beyond adaptation. This was transformation. The human suddenly seemed to notice the crowd. He waved, then called something down that made several cadets laugh. Then, with deliberate showmanship, he released his grip and fell. Vishara's heart lurched. Kira gasped. The crowd below scattered. 10 meters from impact, Marcus spread his arms and legs. His fall slowed, not stopped, but controlled. He hit the ground in a rolling crouch that absorbed momentum like water accepting a stone. Then he stood, brushed dust from his uniform, and bowed to scattered applause. Bring him to me, Veshara said quietly. Now, before he kills himself or terrifies my entire court. The royal guard moved with practiced efficiency, forming a perimeter around the human. Marcus didn't resist, though his smile remained. He walked between them easily, his movements still too light, too quick, like a puppet with cut strings learning to move on its own. He's not scary, Mother. He's beautiful. Beautiful. Perhaps. But also dangerous. Not through malice. She could see that in his open expression, his easy compliance with the guards. Dangerous because he represented something her people had never encountered. Freedom in 3 dimensions. Every species in the coalition understood flight through technology, ships, drones, mechanical assistance. But this human moved through air the way Vishara's people moved through tall grass, naturally, instinctively, as if he'd been born to it. The doors opened. Marcus Chen entered, flanked by guards twice his size. In normal gravity, he would be formidable. Humans were dense, muscular, built for harsh worlds. Here he looked almost fragile, despite what she'd just witnessed. His bones were still heavy, his muscles still designed for crushing weight, but his spirit had apparently learned to fly. Cadet Chen, Veshara kept her voice level. You were briefed on safety protocols? Yes, Your Majesty. His accent was strange, but his Zethlin was grammatically perfect. I apologize if I caused concern. Caused concern? One of her guards chittered. You performed aerial acrobatics over the Royal Plaza without authorization or safety equipment. I know. Marcus met Veshara's gaze directly, bold but not disrespectful. I couldn't help it. I've never felt anything like this. On Earth I weigh 90 kilograms. Here I weigh 30. Do you understand what that means? It means you should move carefully, Veshara said. It means I can fly. His eyes shone.
Not with wings or machines. Just me.
My body, my strength. For the first time in my life, I'm not fighting gravity. I'm dancing with it. Kira stepped forward before Veshara could stop her, looking up at the human with all four eyes wide. Will you teach me? Kira, no. Please? The princess's voice held that particular tone children master early, half plea, half demand. If he can fly, why can't I? Marcus looked between mother and daughter, then slowly knelt, bringing himself to Kira's eye level despite the guard's immediate tension. Because, Your Highness, you already live in this beautiful low gravity. You're used to it. You don't have the heavy world strength to launch yourself. And even if you did, he glanced at Veshara. I don't think your mother's heart could take watching you learn. Diplomatic, Veshara relaxed fractionally. But, Marcus continued, I could show you the physics, how momentum works. How to calculate trajectory. Would that be acceptable, Your Majesty? Veshara studied him. 20 standard years old according to his file. Academy record exemplary. Volunteer for the exchange program, specifically because he wanted to experience different worlds. No disciplinary issues. No concerning patterns. Just a young human experiencing what his species would call a dream come true. And her daughter looking at this strange creature with wonder instead of fear. Supervised instruction, Veshara said carefully, in designated areas, with safety protocols. Marcus's smile could have lit the palace. Thank you, Your Majesty. And Cadet Chen? Veshara leaned forward slightly. If you ever launch yourself from a palace terrace without permission again, I will have you confined to quarters for your entire exchange period. Clear? Crystal clear, Your Majesty. Now you will give a formal demonstration tomorrow, in the training arena. So my people can understand what they witnessed today wasn't a threat, but a difference in biology. Can you do that? Marcus straightened, his eyes bright with challenge and excitement. I can do more than that, Your Majesty. I can show them what humanity means when we say we dream of flying. Veshara dismissed him with a gesture, watching as he walked away with that too light step, still adjusting to a world where every movement could become flight. Kira pressed against her side again, chattering excitedly about trajectories and momentum. The queen looked back at the dome, at the sky beyond. Tomorrow this human would fly again, and she would watch. Not with fear, but with the beginning of understanding. Perhaps this was why the coalition existed. Not to make all species the same, but to show each other what became possible when worlds collided, even if it meant watching a demon dance through air. The next morning arrived with Zethlin's twin sons painting the arena in amber and violet light. Veshara had ordered the royal training grounds cleared, then filled them with carefully selected observers. Military commanders who needed to understand human capabilities, scientists who wanted to study biomechanics, palace staff who'd witnessed yesterday's display and deserved answers, and, of course, Kira, who'd talked of nothing else through the night cycle. Marcus Chen stood in the arena's center, looking smaller than he had yesterday. They'd provided him with sensor equipment, medical monitors, trajectory trackers, force measurement devices. He wore them without complaint, though Veshara noticed his constant glances upward, like a caged bird remembering sky. Cadet Chen, she addressed him from the royal observation platform, her voice amplified across the arena. You may begin when ready. Even that simple movement looked wrong. Too quick. Too easy. Then he jumped. On Earth it would have been perhaps half a meter vertical. Respectable for a human, unimpressive overall. Here, he launched skyward like a projectile, arms tight to his sides, body arrow straight. The tracking systems clocked him at 12 meters vertical before gravity's weakened grip slowed his ascent. The crowd murmured. Kira gripped the railing. At the apex, Marcus spread his arms. His ascent stopped. For one perfect moment, he hung motionless against the dawn sky. Then he tilted forward, angled his body, and fell into a controlled dive that became a glide that became a sweeping arc across the entire arena. Impact velocity? Vashara asked her science advisor. Minimal, Majesty? He's using air resistance and body positioning to control descent. It's remarkably efficient. Marcus touched down on a raised platform, absorbed the landing with bent knees, then immediately launched again. This time he grabbed a suspended training bar mid-flight, swung around it twice, building momentum, and released himself in a spinning trajectory that carried him across and upward simultaneously. He was showing off now. Vashara could see it in the deliberate flourishes, the unnecessary spins. But beneath the showmanship lay precise calculation. Every movement served a purpose. Every rotation controlled his direction or speed. "Mother?" Kira whispered. "He's not just flying." "He's hunting." "Explain." "Watch his eyes. He's always looking for the next hold, the next angle. Like when father hunts in the deep forest, planning 3 jumps ahead." Smart child. Vashara watched more carefully. Kira was right. This wasn't mere play. Marcus moved through 3-dimensional space the way a predator moved through territory. Constant assessment, instant adaptation, absolute confidence in his body's capabilities. Terrifying. And magnificent. Marcus caught a ceiling beam, hung upside down for a moment, then dropped into a controlled fall that he converted into a horizontal glide mere centimeters above the arena floor. The crowd gasped as he skimmed past, close enough to touch, moving faster than most of them could run. Then he kicked off the ground again, shot upward, caught himself on a pillar one-handed, and used his momentum to swing completely around it before launching toward the next structure. "His bone density must be incredible," the science advisor muttered, checking readouts. "The force of these impacts would shatter our skeletons. Yet he makes it look effortless," Vashara observed. "That's training, Majesty. And millions of years of evolution on a heavy world. His species learned to carry weight. Here, that strength becomes speed and power." Marcus executed a maneuver that drew gasps, a running leap from one platform that became a wall, run up a vertical surface that transitioned into a backflip over an obstacle. He controlled every centimeter, every rotation, landing exactly where he clearly intended. Then he stopped, stood still, and looked directly at Vashara. "Your Majesty," his voice carried clearly across the arena, "may I demonstrate something specific?" "Proceed. I'd like to show you the difference between our species' capabilities." He gestured to one of the Zethlon guards. "Commander Teshra, would you jump as high as you can?" Teshra crouched, all 6 legs coiling, then launched herself upward with impressive force. She reached perhaps 2 meters before falling back. Respectable for a Zethlan. Normal. "Thank you, Commander." Marcus took the same position. "I'm going to jump the same way." No running start, same technique. Watch. His leg muscles bunch visibly beneath his uniform. Then he exploded upward. 15 meters. Straight vertical. High enough to grab the lowest training beam and pull himself higher still. High enough that Kira squeaked in alarm. High enough that even Vashara felt her heart skip. Marcus hung there briefly, then dropped, controlling his fall perfectly. "That's the difference," he said quietly. "Not skill. Not training. Biology. On my world, I practiced for months to jump 1 meter high. Here, basic physics makes me superhuman." He spread his hands. "I'm not trying to be frightening, I'm just me. But translated to your gravity." The arena was silent. Vashara could see her people processing, calculating, understanding. "One more demonstration," Marcus said. "With permission." "Granted." He walked to the arena's edge, where the training equipment included weighted packs used for endurance exercises. He selected one, hefted it, checked the weight marker. 50 kilograms, he announced. "About half what I weigh on Earth. Here, it's..." He lifted it one-handed above his head. "Negligible." Then he jumped while holding it. Still reached 10 meters. Still controlled his flight. The weighted pack clearly affected him. His movements were less graceful, his landing harder, but he still moved through the air like it was water. "That's a combat demonstration," one of the military commanders said quietly. "He's showing us he could carry equipment, weapons, even wounded comrades while maintaining aerial mobility." Or, another commander countered, "He's showing us he's not a threat despite appearing to be one." Look, he's deliberately choosing non-threatening movements now. True. Marcus had shifted to slower, more predictable paths. showing his trajectory clearly before each jump, making himself readable rather than mysterious. Smart, diplomatic, and probably coached by his academy instructors on how to demonstrate capability without triggering fear. Kira tugged Veshara's drape again. Can I please? Absolutely not. But Mother... Kira... Veshara's voice held parental finality. You weigh 12 kilograms. If you jumped with human strength, you'd hit the ceiling. Without human bone density, you'd break yourself. The answer is no. Her daughter's disappointment was palpable, but she subsided, returning her attention to Marcus's demonstration. The human had moved into educational mode now, explaining physics to the assembled observers. Momentum. Trajectory. Force distribution. He'd clearly prepared this portion, probably worked with instructors to make it accessible to non-humans. The key is understanding that I'm not actually flying, he explained. I'm falling with style. Every jump is calculated. Every movement uses existing momentum. I can't hover. Can't change direction mid-flight without something to push against. I'm just very, very good at turning falling into controlled movement. He demonstrated by jumping straight up, then showing his helplessness at the apex. Arms and legs moving uselessly with nothing to push against. Only when he grabbed a nearby bar could he redirect. See? Still bound by physics, just operating in physics that feel like magic to me. A young Ziflin cadet raised a claw. Could you teach us? Even without human strength, could we learn to move more efficiently? Marcus's smile was genuine. The principles work regardless of strength. Better positioning, better momentum use, better fall control, all teachable. I'd be honored to show you. Veshara watched him work the crowd with natural charisma. Not manipulation, sincerity. He genuinely wanted to share this experience, this joy he'd found in their world's gravity. The demonstration continued for another hour. Marcus answered questions, performed requested maneuvers, and even convinced several brave cadets to attempt modified versions of his movements with extensive safety equipment. None could match him. But several managed impressive gains over their normal capabilities simply by applying his principles. As the demonstration wound down, Veshara noticed Marcus's movements becoming slightly less controlled. Fatigue, perhaps. Or the accumulated strain of forcing a heavy world body through maneuvers it wasn't designed for, regardless of gravity. Cadet Chen, she called. Sufficient. You've made your point admirably. He landed near the platform, breathing harder than he had at the start, sweat visible on his skin despite the cool morning air.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I hope this helped.
You've transformed potential fear into understanding. Well done. She paused. However, the original restriction stands. No unauthorized aerial activities. If you wish to fly, you do so in designated areas with proper oversight. Understood, Your Majesty. Welcome to Zethlan. Truly. I believe your time here will be educational for all of us. His grin returned, tired but genuine. I believe so too, Your Majesty. As the crowd dispersed, chattering excitedly, Veshara noticed Kira staring at Marcus with undisguised admiration. Not romantic, far too young for that, but the hero worship of a child who'd seen someone do the impossible. Mother, Kira said quietly, when I'm older, can I go to a heavy world, so when I come back I'll be strong too? Veshara's hearts clenched. That's not how it works, little one. We'd be crushed on a heavy world. Our bodies aren't built for it. The human is built for it. But he chose to come here anyway. To a light world, where he could fly. Kira looked up at her. He gave up normal to find magic. That's brave. From the mouths of children. Veshara looked across the arena to where Marcus was being swarmed by cadets asking questions, demonstrating grips, explaining angles. He looked exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure, and she realized her daughter was right. This human had volunteered for an exchange program that took him from comfort into strangeness. Yes, he'd found unexpected joy here, but he'd had the courage to seek it in the first place. You're right, Veshara told Kira. That is brave. Remember that. True courage isn't fearlessness. It's walking into the unknown, hoping to find wonder. Over the following days, Marcus became a fixture in the training arena. Not just for his flying, though that remained a spectacle that drew crowds, but for his teaching. He worked with cadets on movement efficiency, with guards on tactical positioning, with palace staff on simple exercises that improved their mobility, and he was careful, scrupulously careful. He never demonstrated without permission, never pushed boundaries, never took risks that might endanger others or himself. But Veshara saw the longing in him during formal events, trapped in ceremony when the open sky beckoned. Saw him glance upward constantly, calculating trajectories he couldn't take. So she made a decision. On his 10th day, she summoned him to the palace's highest terrace. Private, unobserved. Just Queen and Cadet. Your Majesty? Marcus looked confused when he arrived. I've watched you, Cadet Chen. You've been admirably restrained, respectful of our protocols, patient with our fears. She gestured to the terrace edge. But I see how you look at the sky. He had the grace to look embarrassed. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I don't mean to be disrespectful to... I'm not criticizing. She stepped beside him, looking out over the palace grounds, the city beyond, the mountains in the distance. I'm giving you an hour. This terrace is private, unmonitored. Fly, Cadet Chen. Not for demonstration. Not for education. For yourself. His eyes widened. Your Majesty, I'd... Return here when you're done. That's an order. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Why? Because my daughter taught me something. You came here seeking wonder, and you found it. You've shared that wonder generously with my people. You deserve to experience it privately, without performance, without expectation. She paused. And because I remember what it's like to be young and restrained by duty when freedom calls. Fly, Marcus Chen, be free. Just for an hour. She left him there, standing at the edge with dawn breaking behind him and a world of low gravity before him. From her private chambers, she watched through magnified viewers as he stood motionless for long moments. Then he spread his arms, leaned forward, and launched himself into open air with a whoop of pure joy that her sensors barely caught. He flew like he'd been born to it, not the careful demonstrations, not the measured educational movements. Wild, joyous, reckless flight that took him skimming over rooftops, spiraling around towers, diving and climbing and spinning through air that welcomed him like water welcoming a fish. Beautiful, terrifying, free. Kira appeared beside her, having snuck from her chambers. You let him go. I did. That was kind, Mother. Perhaps. Veshara watched Marcus execute a maneuver that would have killed him in normal gravity. A full rotation around a spire that launched him upward and sideways. Or perhaps it was selfish. I wanted to see what a human looks like when they're truly happy. He looks like flying, Kira said simply. And he did. In that hour, Marcus Chen wasn't a cadet or a diplomat or a demonstration. He was motion made manifest, physics made poetry, the dream of flight made real through nothing but biology and willingness to leap. When the hour ended, he returned to the terrace as ordered, breathing hard, skin flushed, eyes bright with tears of joy or exhaustion, or both. Thank you, he managed. Your Majesty, thank you. I'll never forget. I know. Veshara inclined her head. Now, return to your quarters and rest. You have afternoon training with the guard cadets. He bowed deeply and left, still floating more than walking. Kira looked up at her mother. Will you let him fly again? Privately? Once per week? Veshara decided. Same conditions, same location. He's earned that much. She looked down at her daughter, and someday, when you're older and wiser, I'll tell you why I really did this. Why? Because the coalition works not when we fear each other's differences, but when we make space for them. That human isn't dangerous because he can fly. He's valuable because he can show us possibilities we never imagined. Veshara placed a claw on Kira's shoulder. Remember this lesson, little one. When you're queen, you'll need it. Kira nodded solemnly, then smiled. Can I tell him he looked like a flying demon? A good demon? One that brings joy, if you wish. That evening, at formal dinner, Kira did exactly that. The entire court went silent as the young princess announced that Cadet Chen was officially the palace's joy demon and should be respected as such. Marcus, to his credit, bowed gravely and accepted the title with appropriate seriousness, even as his eyes danced with amusement. From that day forward, the human who learned to fly wasn't feared. He was celebrated. He taught movement classes that packed the training arena. He advised military commanders on three-dimensional tactics. He showed palace engineers new possibilities for architecture that embraced vertical space. And once per week, at dawn, he climbed to the highest terrace and flew alone through sky that welcomed him like coming home. Veshara watched sometimes, from her private chambers. Watched the joy demon dance through air that made him more than human, less than bird, exactly what happened when biology met opportunity and courage chose to leap. The other species would learn eventually, would send their own cadets to low-gravity worlds, would discover their own unexpected capabilities. But this human had been first, had shown them that the Coalition's greatest gift wasn't similarity, but the space to be magnificently, impossibly, joyfully different. And when Marcus Chen finally completed his exchange and prepared to return to Earth's crushing gravity, Hira, now 6 cycles old, presented him with a gift, a crystal sculpture of a figure in flight, wings spread not from biology but from sheer will. "So you remember," she said solemnly, "that once you were a demon, a good demon." "Our demon." Marcus knelt, accepting the gift with hands that trembled slightly. "I'll never forget. This world gave me wings." "How could I forget that? Will you be sad?" Kira asked. "Going back to where you can't fly?" He smiled, though his eyes glistened. "A little. But I'll remember what it felt like. And maybe that memory will help me be brave in other ways. You taught me that wonder is worth seeking, even when it's temporary." Vishara watched from nearby. Her heart's full of something she couldn't quite name. Pride, perhaps, or satisfaction. Or simply the quiet joy of having made the right choice. The human who came to her world had arrived as a cadet. He left as something more, a bridge between species, a teacher of possibilities, a living reminder that differences celebrated become strengths shared. And somewhere in the palace archives, the security footage remained, the original recording of a human launching himself from a terrace and discovering flight, tagged not as a security incident but as a historical document, the day humanity learned to fly, not through technology, not through engineering, but through the simple courage to leap into the unknown and trust that wonder waited on the other side. Years later, when Kira became queen, she commissioned a statue in the palace plaza. A human figure in flight, arms spread, face tilted skyward, caught in that perfect moment between falling and flying. At the base, an inscription in 3 languages, "Here flew Marcus Chen, who taught us that limits exist only until someone brave enough decides to leap. May all who visit our world find their own wings." And beneath that, in smaller text, a final note. The Joy Demon. Never forgotten. The statue became tradition. Every human cadet who came to Zethland on exchange visited it. Most attempted their own flights, with varying success. None quite matched Marcus's natural grace, but all found their own versions of freedom in the low gravity that welcomed them. And sometimes, in the early dawn, palace staff reported seeing an elderly queen on the highest terrace, looking out over her city, her claws resting gently on the railing, watching the sky, remembering the day a demon flew, and smiled.